Tonight, we're going to talk about something we've talked about before, but we're going to try to mesh it in with Mark Douglas's thoughts, and we're going to look at Bitcoin and play a FOMO exercise. I might talk a little fast tonight because I got a lot I want to cover because it's been a really long week, and I'm really excited to be back in the live room, my favorite place, with you guys, covering some of the stuff that we really need to know and figure out before this market it goes to where I think a lot of people are never going to believe that it would go to. And it's going to go to one of those mind-bending numbers first to the downside, in my opinion, at some point. And then I think we'll see a lot more adoption, and we'll see a mind-bending number to the upside, because that's what crypto does. If you've been around crypto long enough, it's all about psychology. So we want to talk about FOMO. What is FOMO? Well, most of us know it stands for fear of missing out. As a trader, we have to eliminate FOMO, trader or investor. FOMO will get you in trouble every time, because what happens as a result of fear is you make mistakes by clicking buttons when you're not fully prepared. Yes, Taco, that is Fry. That's Fry right there. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about this. FOMO. Mark Douglas says, in Trading in the Zone, you will gather evidence for the trade if your fear of missing out is greater than your fear of losing. So that's one hand. So if you're afraid of missing out and that fear is greater than your fear of losing, you're going to gather evidence for the trade. That doesn't sound right. Shouldn't a trade be, think about that. And you will gather information against the trade if your fear of losing is greater than your fear of missing out. There's a problem with both of these situations. He says in either case, you will not be in the most conducive state of mind to produce consistent results. Why? Because in order to produce consistent results, you have to eliminate fear. Fear cannot be a factor for you. This is not a show, not Fear Factor. This is your business. This is your trading business, and it should be planned methodically to eliminate fear. So FOMO, it's a fear of missing out. Simply put, it's driven by basic needs. So whether it's a need to grab an opportunity because you see a trade that you think is going to take off and you're not going to be able to take advantage. Sometimes you have FOMO of missing out of an event or that a community is involved in. But it's that need to belong or that need to participate in something that drives your FOMO. Why wasn't I invited to dinner? Am I having enough fun? Little FOMO man here, thinking all these things he's missing out on. But really, what is FOMO? It's a fear-based feeling that you're going to miss out on something, but it's an irrational fear. And that irrational thought process causes response behaviors that are not logical or well thought out. That's a fancy way of saying it causes you to click the button when you don't have a plan. And it's not helpful. It causes you to make trading mistakes. And a red flag, if you have FOMO, if you feel like, oh, geez, I don't know. If I don't click this button, if I don't get in this trade, I'm not going to get that 100% that I see set up in this chart. I better get in. Instead of clicking the button, think about that feeling as a red flag to go back and look at your plans. Because truly, if your plans are fully developed, you shouldn't have any FOMO. You have an entry target, and the market either comes to it or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you have other opportunities waiting to take advantage of. There's no reason from a trading standpoint, from a personal business standpoint, there's no reason why you should be wasting time or energy on fear when you could be spending time planning methodically and coming up with a solution to your problem. Focusing on fear is a focus on a problem, not on a solution. Okay? What's up, Christian? You got 100-degree fever? Oof. I'm sorry. I hate to hear that, but I'm glad you made it here. So what does it look like? That's that little FOMO guide. That's your fear and FOMO in life. I'm skipping through a little bit because I want to get to some other stuff. But in trading, FOMO in trading looks like spaces on the chart that are designed to get people who don't know what they're doing to click the button and take a bad trade. Why? Because the people who are pulling the strings, who are manipulating the market to take money out of it at a constant rate, want you to give them a chance to take their losses in advance. Think about that. Oh, Christian, yeah, you're on all panelists, not panelists and attendees. So if you were in control of a market and your goal was to take money from people and you knew that you were going to send the market down, the only way that you can take money from people is by giving them your shares or your coins or your crypto when the price is really high, then dropping it down and buying it back at a lower price. So your goal is to get people to buy after a move has happened as the move is setting up to the downside. That's the anatomy of FOMO in a trade. And here you see these points on the chart that these arrows are getting to. So down here at the bottom, oh, look, it's a green day. Maybe the trend is reversing, but I won't get in until I'm convinced the bear market is over. Well, here's a problem. If you're trying to get in when the bear market is over and we've got all this way to go, you're already messed up in the head. Way messed up because you're missing the big picture. The next one says, number 2, I should have gotten in when I had the chance. All my friends bought in already. Scott already bought in and he's already saying I was a dummy for not buying in down there. I'm losing out on all these gains. Finally, it gets to here. Screw it, I'm going all in. Everybody else just made, what is that, 12,000 to 17,000. So everybody else just made about 50, 40%. I'm going all in now because I'm missing out and everybody's making money. And what's happening? Where's the gains? Ouch. So FOMO is not your friend. It's not your friend. But we can do things about it. We can do things about FOMO. We can plan all of our trades. If having a plan for every trade is a requirement, we eliminate a big portion of FOMO, because FOMO really at its heart is fear of the unknown, right? If you don't have a plan to take advantage of a trade, you're afraid of missing out on it. But if you have a plan in place that says, I will not enter this trade, let's go back and look at that little chart there. If you had a plan when this was going in place and we started to drop down in price, and you had thought, well, this huge wick came in and we bounced back up, you might have thought to yourself, if you were well trained, when they square this wick up, if they come in and buy with support and square this wick up, then I'm going to enter. That's how an advanced trader thinks. This move has already snapped back off the initial pull. I'm expecting them to drift back down most of it to check in with support. It was so violent. It was like a snapshot. Now it's going to kind of drift back down and check in with that area. That's where I want to get in. No fear, no FOMO. I had a plan based on something that happened in the past. It came down and let me in. I take advantage and I made 50, 40, 50%. Get out. Especially if you start to see a turn and make a lower high on a huge set of red and a huge set of red volume that signified this was the top. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this idea of fear from a Mark Douglas perspective. So this is from The Disciplined Trader by Mark Douglas. You can probably find it in the library. You can find it online as well. Highly suggest buying it. It's a very, very good book. This is about my 3rd time through, and every time I read it, I find something completely new that I missed the first time through. This is just one of those books. But this is from actually from the foreword. At the beginning of the book, he has a preface, and he starts to talk about just this general idea of what he wants to cover in the book, and he really hits this point of fear home in it. So I went through and did a little bit of highlighting. We'll read real fast, then we're going to do a FOMO exercise before I pass it back to Scott. He says, one thing you will learn as a trader is that mental resources you use to get what you want in your everyday life will not work in the trading environment. The power and control that are necessary to manipulate the markets, make them do what you want to do, are beyond all but a handful of individuals. And the external constraints that exist in society to control your behavior don't exist in the market environment. That is a huge secret. If you try to come to this market and play like you behave in life, get ready to pay the market. The markets have absolutely no power or control over you, no expectation of your behavior, and no regard for your welfare. The market doesn't care. If in fact you can't control or manipulate the markets, and the markets have absolutely no power or control over you, then the responsibility for what you perceive and for your resulting behavior resides only in you. The one thing you can control is yourself. As a trader, you have the power either to give yourself money or to give your money to other traders. Think about that statement. The market does nothing. The market can't click the button. The market can't trade on its own. You have the power. And the ways in which you choose to do this will be determined by a number of psychological factors that have little or nothing to do with the markets. Here's where the irony and the complete disconnect that most people have with the market comes into play. And this will be so until you acquire some new skills and also learn how to adapt yourself to suit conditions as they exist in the market environment. The market will never adapt to you. It won't. It's just a market. So to operate successfully in this environment, you will need to learn how to control yourself in ways that may be completely alien to you. And this is why people struggle so hard, especially in the beginning, because we can't help it. We're like blind infants wandering in the dark of a financial market when we first approach the ticker, when we see the first trades going across the screen. We don't even understand half the indicators, and we don't know what the information is that's been designed to tell us something to get us to click a button. We can't even read what it's designed to tell us at that point. So you have to learn a completely new way of thinking, a completely new way of being. It almost takes you back to a survival of the fittest, nature, dog eats dog kind of environment. And you have to be ready for that. You'll also have to learn how to grant yourself the mental freedom to shift your perspective to notice alternate possibilities to getting what you want in the trading arena, regardless of your expectations of how you're going to get it. You have to be willing to accept you might lose even if you're sure of your trade. There's only a few traders who have come to the realization that they alone are completely responsible for the outcome of their actions. Even fewer are those who have accepted the psychological implications of that realization and know what to do about it. Even if you know you're responsible for everything, it's an entirely another step to acknowledge and accept the implications of that realization. You're responsible. That means that you have the power, which means you can win more than you're winning now if you're willing to take responsibility for your behavior. It's just like being at school, and it's so funny that I used to be a classroom teacher because I almost have to do the types of things I would do in a classroom to manage behavior on myself in my trading. And I think that gives me a little bit of an edge sometimes because I've done that and I can put myself in the role of now the market is my teacher and I'm the student. And when the market tells me I'm wrong, that's a lesson I need to learn. It's not a loss that I need to feel bad about. It's not a gut-wrenching, painful experience that should keep me awake at night. That only happens if you're being irresponsible with your trading. And ask me how I know, because I've done it. When you're irresponsible with your position sizing, the pain of being in a losing trade can be unbearable. It can make you physically ill, cause you to lose sleep. That should be your first sign that you are, I almost said a swear, you are messing up. If you feel uncomfortable, you're messing up and you haven't even let the market move yet. You have to be 100% comfortable with everything you do so that fear does not creep in and really mess you up. And if you bought too high, guy, and you had a plan, your plan would have been to get out when you took a 2% hit and wait. It's simple. It's so painfully, ironically, quintessentially simple that everybody tends to overlook it in the beginning. Not trading is a trade. You're sitting in fiat. That's a trade. You have been trading your whole life, ever since you got your first nickel from selling a glass of lemonade on the stand in front of mom and pop's a driveway. You made a trade. You went into the cabinet and you took a cookie out of mom's jar. You didn't pay, but you made a trade. You've been trading your whole life, and you've been taught a certain way to trade in your daily life that doesn't work in the market. That's why so many people lose. And I got a few more notes to read before I pass it back to Scott. And I'm going to speed up a little bit because I want to do my exercise and I don't want to take too long. But these are so important, such foundational concepts to get down. This is going to go into the foundations course until we can restore some more of the content. So I really want to drive this point home. From a psychological perspective, he says, this means that each trade has the possibility of fulfilling your wildest dreams of financial independence, and it simultaneously presents you with the risk of losing everything you own. Psychologically. The constantly changing price movement makes it extremely easy for you to ignore the risk and tempt yourself into believing you don't have to follow your own rules this time. How many of you know better, have rules written down, have taken the time to make important safeguards in your own plans, and then you see your favorite coin and it jumps 20% and you've clicked the button? I'm waiting to see if anybody admits it. Scott, my man, I've done it. I've done it. Because when you are first starting out, you are still that toddler reaching in the dark. You see that cookie up on the counter. Mom told you it was hot. Maybe you burned your hand once before and you told yourself, I'm not going to do it, but gosh, that cookie smells so good. Gosh, dang it. I just really got to have that cookie. And you burn your hand a second time, 3 times, 4 times. We all do it because our brains are conditioned to learn that way. And for some of us who are stubborn, from other things that have happened to us in life that are completely non-related to this event, but still are playing a part in it. Some of us need to get burned 5, 6, 7 times before we learn. If you're that person, you need to wear safety gloves. Don't even put yourself in the room without gloves on. Make a hard rule that no matter what you do in your trading, you have to cut every position in half until you get 3 wins in a row. There's all kinds of creative, clever ways that you can force yourself to be safer if you can have a little bit of discipline and take personal responsibility for what you're trying to accomplish. There's nothing wrong with trading less. There is always something wrong with trading more than you should. So I really want to hit this point home, and then we're going to do the exercise. I think I've got 2 more sections. He says, people seem to avoid pain instinctively by building up mental defenses against the intrusion of environmental information that would confirm the existence of conflict. These defenses consist of denials, rationalizations, and justifications. This is what we do when we go looking for evidence to support our trades that we've already made. You don't need evidence for a trade you already made because you already took it. Who cares? Let the market work it out. Next, move on to something else. Perceptual distortion occurs when our mental system automatically distorts information by shaping and selectively excluding information to compensate for the conflict between what we expect and what the environment is giving. Confirmation bias will get you in the market every time. If you are in a trade and you spend half of your time monitoring the trade that you're in, going and digging up information for that was a good choice or that was a bad choice, you're wasting time worrying about something that's already playing out that you should just be sitting back and letting happen while you've worked on something else. It's a waste of time. There are so many tricks in this market that are not even at first glance a reason why you're losing, but they're just a time sink that keeps you from getting better. It's opportunity cost. You have to think about this like a business. If you are wasting time struggling with something you can't control, that's the market. You can't control the market. Once you enter a trade, it's out of your control. You have to let it happen. If you're wasting time on that, your opportunity cost is you've lost out on a chance to get better on one of your skills that you should be working on. It is just as important to be efficient in your trading work as it is to be accurate. if you want to be a really good trader quickly anyway. I mean, if you've got all the time in the world, go slow, take your time. It really depends on your situation. I know for me, when I was working a full-time job teaching before I came into trading, efficiency was the only way I survived. So look at ways in your trading that maybe you're spending too much time. FOMO is a waste of your efficiency. FOMO is stealing your chances to do something better with your time. That's really why you don't want FOMO, besides the fact that you click the button on accident. If you're distorting market information, you're not sharing a reality with the market. You're indulging yourself in an illusion to the extent that you hide from the possibility of disappointment. The entire reason why you go looking for something to prove you were right when you get in a trade is to hide from the possibility that you're wrong and you're going to get hurt. If you're hiding from being wrong, you're afraid. If you're afraid, you're not ready to trade. You're making mistakes already. Have I made the point? Have I beat the dead horse? Have I drilled it into your head yet? As you begin to understand the negative relationship between fear and perception, you might be surprised to learn that in your attempts to avoid losses, you're actually creating them. Fear will also limit your range of responses to any given situation. Many traders suffer considerably when they know exactly what they want to do, but when the moment arrives, they fail to execute and they find themselves completely immobilized. Bitcoin fell to 3,700. It didn't go any further. Buying started to happen, and gosh dang it, you really wanted to swing trade that move because you knew it was going to move and pull back a little bit, but you waited until 6,000 to buy in. That's because you were afraid the market might prove you wrong and keep going down. You know in the big picture it's probably going to go down. It's probably part of your belief system, but you're still afraid that you're going to get caught and get hurt because you probably burned your hand once, twice, 5 times, and you don't want to get it burnt again. To whatever degree self-doubt exists as a state of mind, to that same degree, you will feel fear, anxiety, and confusion. As a teacher of special education students, one of the things I had to learn was that if there is fear, anxiety, frustration, or confusion in the classroom, students don't learn. And you might wonder, well, he was teaching little kids. I'll tell you, I taught K through 6, so kindergartners through 6th graders. That's about 5 years old to about 11 years old. I did that for 2 or 3 years. Then I taught 6th grade, which is about 12 years old, all the way up until high school, which is about 18. And then my last job for several years, I taught adults 18 and older that had disabilities that were going back to get their diploma. And I can tell you that no matter what age a person is, you will not function at your peak, whether you are learning, trading, performing, if you feel any fear, anxiety, or confusion. And if you have doubts in your trading because you don't have solid plans, you haven't spent enough time analyzing charts to trust the movements of the market, you're going to have doubt. That's going to drive fear, anxiety, and confusion. You're going to make mistakes, period. So I encourage you to go and read this book a little more in depth. This was just in the preface at the beginning of this book after the foreword in The Disciplined Trader. So go read it, check it out, and there's a lot of good information there. I have one last thing to do before I pass it back to Scott. I heard him in my ear. He's just gotten back, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm here.
We're going to do a little FOMO exercise real quick. So we've done this before, but we're going to talk. Someone's knocking. We're going to watch this play out a little bit. Okay. Now look, every time, this is something I really want. Let me get it to a good speed here. Every time we get a swing up, undisciplined money gets FOMOing. It comes knocking. Every single time. Watch what happens here in a minute, because we're getting real close to the fun. FOMO, 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 FOMO. What happens to people that FOMO? They don't play no mo.
Oh, God.
Because they get burnt hard. And if you've had FOMO, you know. This is where they get paralyzed in fear, or they sell. And now that you've sold, you can't get back in because it's turning the other direction because you waited and you sold at the worst place. Now you got to buy because it's going back up above 10,000. These are the games they play. Whether I play it in 1 second per candle or whether you watch it over 1 day, 1 week, 1 month per candle. If you feel emotional while this is playing, if your heart is racing, now there's one, if you've been doing this for a long time and you're feeling it because it's exciting, because you know that this is kind of a game you start to understand, that's different. If you're watching this and as it's hitting here, you're getting nervous about it's going too high, I'm going to miss out, or it's going too low, I'm going to miss out. You got some work to do. You need to work on your mindset, your psychology, and you need to look at what are the triggers of your fear, what are the types of fear you're experiencing, and what sorts of things can you put in place, what rules, procedures, red flag plans, whatever you want to call it, can you put in place to protect your trading from you? Because guess who is responsible for all your losses? It's not the market. It's not the other guy whose piece of toilet paper coin you bought. It's not his fault. It's not the dude who doesn't take a bath on YouTube and shills XVG till the cows come home. That's not his fault. He didn't click the button for you. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, what makes me nervous in my trading? That's what you need to start working on now before the market makes the next move. That's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. That's where you're going to get the best efficient use of your time and improving your results. Eliminate your fear, eliminate your FOMO, and you're going to get better results, hands down, every time.